Here from Page Turners, and I'm just so glad that you have downloaded this Surefire Story template because it's going to make your life as a writer so much easier. It's got so much information that it will help you find in your story world. Okay, so we know, and in this training, I'm going to make sure this template really works for you so it becomes a very useful tool in your writing life. We know from what is the fuel of stories is transformation, because that's where we get the meaning. So what this template does for you is track all the transformational points across your story world, which basically means that dance between protagonist and antagonist. So you get the kind of conflict and the tension and the suspense that you see at the beginning of your story world is going to be nothing like you see at the end. Even in quiet stories, there's loud action thriller stories, and then there's these quieter stories, but the same thing is happening from a theoretical point of view. So you'll need to kind of keep your eyes open for that. Okay, so there are three kind of story structures, classic story structures. There is, and you're going to need to know about all of them. So I'm just going to take you through them at the moment. There's the arch plot, the mini plot, and then the anti-plot. And while you will need to know about them all over your career as you develop as a writer, we're really going to focus on that first one, the arch plot, because it's also known as the universal story. It's the beautiful way that stories connect with what our needs are and how our brains are wired as humans, since right back around the campfire. About 95% of the kind of stories that we read or watch or see are based on the universal story. So that's why it's going to help most of you that are here today. Okay, so now this is your template. So this is your template. So have a look at it. Now you should have it already by now. What you have up here is a place to put your working title, and you mightn't even have a working title at the moment. So it's just a place marker. It can be just blue or whatever, but it's really the identity or the logistics of your story that go up here. For instance, if you've already done the first draft, you put the amount of words up there. You might put your genre. Genres are really particularly important for filling out a template like this, because many genres have obligatory scenes. For instance, crime, you're going to have a dead body pretty soon. Romance, you're going to have a meet cute. So this is the kind of thing you'll need to be thinking about to populate your template. So that the template that you're going to be using has all of that up the top, and it will also have things like past tense. The person, is it first person, third person, tense first, second or third tense. Second is very unusual. So all of that these are the kind of tools I'm going to be using to tell that story. So then what you do is you make a copy. And you work on the new copy. So you've always got this template as for all your other projects that you can refer back to. So then once you've got your copy, you look down the side, you've got all the acts. And in each of the acts, you've got the turning points. So each act has a number of turning points. Then across the top, you have the things that you need to do for each of those turning points. For instance, the first one is the turning point. Then you've got a description of your turning point. Then you move across to where it takes place, the location. Then you go to the event, what's happening. And then you go to the essential conflict, which is actually kind of the other side of the coin of the event. It really fleshes out the event side. And I'm going to come back to that. And then there's the light bulbs. I do a lot of thinking when I'm creating this template. So I'll often have ideas like, oh, X needs to say this to Y, or that there needs to be the needle in the scene. Whatever it is, I can capture my thinking as I go along. Okay, so let's take an example. We'll look at the normal world. That's the first turning point. It's not the turning point so much as that's the way we come into the story. So you want a scene or a couple of scenes which basically say this is how this world operates, this is the tone, these are the themes, this is the characters who live in this world. And so that when we get to the inciting incident, we know what's about to be disrupted. So what you do is you go across to location and you say where it's happening. And why that's important is because it's a really easy trap for writers to end up with locations that are pretty similar. And you don't want that. You want to mix it up. So this keeps your story world pretty tidy. But also, the scene you have in the beginning of that world, it might be around the kitchen table or at a party, or a solitary walk, whatever it is. You don't want to repeat that too much because that first scene connotes the normal world. So you want to kind of make sure that you are doing other things. Okay, then you go across to the event. Of course, we'll know what that is. That's the plot. What is actually happening? So, there's a bickering between the family, or that, there's a mother on a picnic with her two daughters, and she really favours daughter A, which not only annoys daughter B, but also annoys daughter A. So that's the kind of dynamic that will be disrupted as the story gets going. But then you get to the essential conflict. And as I said, the essential conflict really fleshes out the event column, because the essential conflict is about so the event column is about what's actually happening, it's the what, but the essential conflict is what is really happening, i.e. what's happening inside your characters. What is their emotional journey? What are their response to the what is happening? So you end telling two stories. You're telling the external story and the internal story. So the external story you see as the events that make up the action of the plot, and then the internal story is the emotional journey that interacts with the external story. So there's always those two kind of stories going along. And then you get, as I said, to the light bulbs, whatever that comes up for you. Okay, I'm going to give you an example, which I think you might all recognise, Pride and Prejudice from Jane Austen, because if you haven't actually read it, you might have possibly seen one of the many adaptations of Pride and Prejudice. Okay, so the first sentence, and let's see if I get it right, is something like, it's a truth universally acknowledged that a man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Who knew that become one of the most famous literature lines in all our story worlds? It really works because it sets the tone. It's like the doors of the story. Like, you want that first sentence to really represent the whole, everything that's going to happen in that story. But I don't want to get carried away because I do a whole training on first sentences. So for the moment, just know that it's the door to that next scene. And in the scene in Pride and Prejudice, you get that Mr. and Mrs. Bennet are kind of bickering about this really rich guy has just turned up in town. They better get on it because they need to kind of make his acquaintance so that he's got the best opportunity to propose to one of their 5 daughters. Okay, so you see in that there's character being set up, there's themes, there's the tone, there's the way that characters interact and impact on each other. So we've got a very successful and beautiful setup of that normal world. So once you've filled out your whole template, tracking across, using all these categories across all the transformational points, you'll end up with this beautiful map of your novel. So what happens is that the energy starts out here in your normal world in Act 1, and then it starts to rise, and it goes up, 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 and it goes right to the end of Act 2, and then it plummets down into the crisis. And then it goes much further down, as you can see, than the normal world. But then in Act 3, it gets the energy to, the main character gets back on their feet and rises up again. And this time they go even higher to the climax, and then it's out to the resolution. So that's the kind of sense of how the story all comes together. Now, some of you will be able to take this template and go, great, I've got this, and they can run with it. That's all they'll need. But there'll be others of you that go, yeah, they'll be inspired and really want to go deeper into this plot world, into their story world. And if that's you, I have got something that I've put together for you, having done this training and downloaded the template. So you can really kind of really nourish that part of your work as a writer. So what I've done is we've got a whole page turners how to write a damn good novel system, but I've just taken a standalone training module out for you called Structure Fundamentals, Story Structure Fundamentals. And usually this is around about $700 US when we let them go, when we invite people to take them as a standalone. However, for today, what we've done is we've brought that right down to $89, 89 US dollars, and you can just take the further training, the kind of really involved training. There's about 6 modules in there, and you'll be able to fill out this template at a really deep forensic level and really understand it. And you'll be doing that with me, so you'll get quite a bit of help doing that. However, there's an alternative to doing that. You can have that the story structure fundamentals for free as a gift if you want to actually really go into the next phase of your journey as a writer. And you can join our Facebook community, which is exclusive. It's just for people like you. What you get in there is a lot more resources like this. You get weekly coaching with me in our story clinic, and you get a chance to join up to one of our writing groups, because I find that writing can be very lonely, and you get so much benefit, not only through the community of writers in workshopping, and these workshopping groups will be in your own time zone, but also you get a sense of your story gets so much more nourished because other people using the same tools will be able to help each other. And I've seen magic happen when that happens. So they're the kind of things you'll get in the community. And if you choose the community route, it's $27 per month. And also in that, we're going to give you a VIP access to my training on the whole of the Page Turners system. And what VIP access means is that you will get a Q&A afterwards, so you get a lot of individual time to ask your questions, get inspired, and really talk about your own projects. So the whole page turning system is about the head, the heart, and the body. The head is the big idea, the heart is your story world with all your characters, and the body is what we've been talking about today, the story structure, how it holds it all together. So those are the kind of things that you will that you could take. It's one option or the other. You could spend $89 and take the training which is really in depth, and be good to go. Or you might want to stay in the story world and make sure you're not just getting that training, but a whole lot of other things. A community support, individual coaching from me, and there's VIP access as well. So have a think about that. Now, what this whole system, this whole approach that I'm doing is so that you not only write a satisfying story for your readers, but you're having a satisfying journey as a writer. Because rewriters, I just think we should never write alone. We're here to be with each other. So let's get great stories into the world, because stories do make possible change. Stories make so much possibility in the world, and the world needs your story.